Okay,
So
yeah.
I had that as a child, so I would say, you know, there was never any influence for me becoming one religion or another, really, but if anything, I was kind of pushed to being a Christian, because that is a fundamental norm in our society. I never felt that the stories that were told from the Bible, like I'm saying this from a very respectful place,
Okay.
the stories from the Bible never resonated well with me. I never believed that it would be possible for a man to live inside a great fish or a whale, or however you want to interpret it.
It's already been done. In 1800s, a man did that. Charles Bartley, I forgot his name, but he actually survived in a whale for 3 days.
I had never heard of that. You could definitely give me a link to that one, and you know, on that part I might change my mind. However, for me, at the very point, there's so much information that I just can't fathom it all.
Like, give me another one.
The resurrection.
Well, what's wrong with that?
We have never seen anything like it, and of course one can say, well...
That's why it's a miracle.
Exactly.
So what's the problem with it? So what's wrong with that?
I have an issue with it too, by the way, if I can jump in later. But
okay, why is resurrection a problem?
I'm back, by the way, Matt.
Okay. Why is the resurrection a problem?
From God to your radio.
Would you say that the resurrection is it based on, let's just grant that it's eyewitness testimony, the resurrection, right?
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think that you're comfortable with saying that eyewitness testimony alone is enough evidence to demonstrate that a supernatural event occurred?
To demonstrate? You mean to prove?
Prove is kind of a...
Well, here's the thing. We all know that eyewitness accounts are sometimes not trustworthy. But eyewitness accounts are used in evidences in courts. We have people say, yes, I saw him do that. That's the guy. We accept that. But when it's eyewitness accounts written down in the Bible, sorry, you can't trust it. Well, there's an inconsistency there. And the reason the inconsistency exists is because of our presuppositions. If you presuppose God does not exist, then resurrection can't happen. And the eyewitnesses are faulty. If God exists, then resurrections can't happen.
I'm sorry, Matt.
If God doesn't exist...
Eyewitness accounts are largely thrown out of court, by the way. They're basically not...
What would be thrown out of court?
I mean...
Eyewitness accounts, they're not even really considered...
One at a time.
I'm sorry. What? I was just saying that eyewitness accounts, by and large, are not considered substantial evidence in a court of law.
Are you a lawyer?
Almost all of my family is, and they've told me that in numerous cases. And this is exemplified by the Michael Brown case last August, when numerous testimonies claimed that what happened was immediately found to be incorrect by...
I'm listening. I heard something. Hold on.
No, it's okay.
I've never heard of...
Your family's more important, Matt.
Did you just hit something?
Before.
Hold on. Whoa. A bunch of people are talking at once. Sorry.
Yeah. I never heard of any kind of courts being immediate like that. He must have a... What are you... you're not from America, are you?
Me?
Yeah, usually court system's pretty slow and drags on and everything.
Yeah,
eyewitness testimony is thrown out all the time in court, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes, testimonies are. Now let's get back to the Bible, though. Are you just going to say, because courts today throw out eyewitnesses, let's throw out Matthew and John, right?
Not saying that, no. But it has been translated numerous times.
Okay, upstairs.
Translated numerous times? Who said that?
Argument.
Who said the Bible is translated numerous? What does that mean?
Well, it was translated numerous times throughout the course of history into different texts. That's
okay. No offense meant, but you don't know how that works. Want me to tell you?
I know. I mean, no, I'm not a transcriber. No, but I know that throughout history.
Before we even get to that, there is one thing I want to mention to Matt that I'm totally I'm losing the line on right now. My bad. Sorry. Please go on.
Yeah, one guy at a time. Come on.
The Bible is not translated so many times that you can't understand it or can't be trusted. So when they would write the documents, they would copy those documents. The copying procedures, I can teach you if you guys are interested, very meticulous and very, very, very careful. And so what they would do is copy these documents. In fact, you guys don't know this, but in Greek and in Hebrew, Greek New Testament, Hebrew Old Testament, the letters are also numbers. When you write a series of words, you're also writing a series of numbers. So what they would do is they would add up the numbers in various lines and when the copies, and then they would check the numbers additions on the old and the new copies, and if it didn't match, they threw the new one out. And so this is how they would copy. And so the New Testament documents, for example, there's 5,500, roughly, 5,500 Greek supporting manuscripts that are copied this way in the New Testament documents. And the lowest accuracy percentage consistency between the documents is 99.95%, textual identicality in all the 5,500 documents. So those documents have been buried in pots and various things written at different times through different centuries, the first 500, 600, 700 years, all over the Mediterranean area. And so these are unearthed in different places, compared, and they're that accurate. So what we do is we translate from that reconstructed 99.995% accuracy. They get that, they put these together, and then they translate from that language into English, that language into German. That's how it works.
I have an objection. I'm sorry. This is actually my area of expertise. Matt, where did you get the idea that you said the lowest estimate is 99.95% accuracy? Bruce Metzger himself said it was 97%.
Okay. Well, that's what I've heard, and if you've got documentation to the contrary, please send it to me. I have no problem being corrected. I have no problem updating statistics. That doesn't bother me at all.
Okay.
Joe,
Well,
since you asked the question,
so you admit then 97% accuracy?
Yes, I mean, me myself, I actually think that the text of the New Testament is actually very reliable. I have a hard copy of Codex Sinaiticus right here next to me.
Good, good. So then
now my other question is, what is your evidence for the Greek gematria for the adding the totals of each line in their copying?
Oh, I forgot where. I've just done tons of research. Here, take a look. Look in the screen.
Okay, I see lots of books, but I mean, this is something that I would know about.
Let me explain something. I've been studying for 35 years. I don't remember every detail of where I got everything. That's just some of the books I've got. And so, I just have to tell you, I don't have all the stuff memorized of where this came from or how I remember that or where I learned this or that. I just don't. I mean,
Hey,
sorry.
Joe, what point did you want to make? Joe wanted to make a point. I didn't mean to detract from the argument.
Let's Joe have a turn, and then come on, guys, one at a time.
I wanted to ask Joe.
And then, Nicholas, I said Joe's turn.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Joe for this.
Hold on a second. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. Take your turn.
Oh wow, you kicked him. No, it's the issue is, okay, you guys are talking about a very interesting topic, the history, the context behind it. I agree with most of what biblical scholars say. We have a lot of manuscripts, and it's more substantiated with respect to other ancient sources. The important part, though, is what are we saying demonstrates that a supernatural event occurred? And we're saying that it is eyewitness testimony that we are relying on to demonstrate that a supernatural event occurred. And if that's the case, then it seems like there are countless other fantastical or supernatural claims that we only have eyewitness testimony to.
Like
that
what?
Are significantly more substantiated than the Bible. For example, the Hindu milk miracles. Are you guys familiar with the Hindu milk miracles?
No, I'm not.
I am,
The
but
Hindu
please go on.
milk
It's a good story.
miracles. The Hindu milk miracles in 1995. Hindu temples in India started seeing statues of Ganesh. He's the elephant head god of of Hindus. They started seeing statues of Ganesh drinking milk offerings. This started in one Hindu temple in India, and then we had more eyewitnesses seeing it in other temples all throughout India.
Something's happening. So what?
And then we also started seeing more eyewitness accounts in the UAE, in UK, and Canada. Now, these people are still alive today. You can go and talk to them. You can go and ask them what did they see. Talk to them about their eyewitness testimony of such a supernatural event. It's independent, and also secular sources have talked about it. In fact, Cliff Stamp, I'm glad he actually joined right now. He's been to India, and he's talked to people who claim to have seen.
Okay, we got you. So what's the point, though?
Well, the point is that that's a lot more. There's a lot more eyewitness testimony, that kind of evidence supporting
so what?
Hindu. Yeah. Well.
Now what?
If we're gonna take the resurrection as being the case, based off of these ancient sources, then you should. I mean, all the more was it a fortiori? All the more should you accept these eyewitness testimonies to accept
I have no
that
problem with those.
Ganesh.
I have no problem with the milk
Ganesh,
thing happening.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Why shouldn't I?
Are you going to become a Hindu now?
Well, just because something happens doesn't mean that the system behind it is true. Things happen. We have to analyze, well, what's the reason? What's going on?
I agree.
Before we get too far away from it,
the thing about it is that, I mean, it's a lot more supported than the resurrection claim.
I got you. So you say it's a lot more supported. Yeah.
Yeah, and if we're going to say we have eyewitness, if we have eyewitness testimony alone to demonstrate that a supernatural claim occurred, I mean, we should all be Hindus right now.
No. Just because a statue drinks milk or a statue cries blood doesn't mean a religious system is true. Now, the resurrection of Christ is different than that. In Christianity, the resurrection of Christ is the proof that it's true. See, if an elephant statue makes milk disappear, does it prove, according to its doctrines, that it's true? Is there anything in those teachings that says this is what makes it true when a statue of an elephant drinks milk?
I mean, the process of giving an offering to these statues is giving an offering to your deity.
Did you hear what I asked? Okay.
Yeah, and I answered.
Okay, so that proves it, right?
I mean, it demonstrates that their deities like, hey, thanks for the milk.
Okay, so does it prove those deities exist?
I mean, to them, it proved that.
I'm asking you.
Exists, right?
I'm asking you. Does it prove it exists?
Well, I don't think it proves that it exists, but if we're only going off of eyewitness testimony...
Let me ask you.
Hold on really quick. I just want to get this point out. If we're only going off of eyewitness testimony, then you should be thinking that it proves that this deity exists, because you think that it demonstrates that Jesus rose from the dead based off of eyewitness testimony that's not nearly as concrete as the eyewitness testimony to Ganesh drinking milk in India and Canada and stuff. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm being consistent. Eyewitness testimony means something's happening. So if a statue of of an elephant drinking milk is there, as I asked you, does it state in the religious writings that it's a proof and everything is based upon that one event? Is that what makes that religious thing true? As compared to the resurrection of Christ, on which Christianity is based. If the resurrection of Christ doesn't occur, then Christianity is false. If a statue does not drink milk, doesn't mean that that religion is not true. There's differences. You're not thinking through those differences. Furthermore, I
don't see how that falsifies. Go ahead. Sorry.
Furthermore, if you're going to quote that there are witnesses saying these things happen, so let me ask you, are these things happening according to the eyewitnesses?
I'm sorry, you're asking me if I think they're happening according to the eyewitnesses? No, but that's because I don't think eyewitness testimony alone is sufficient to show that a miracle.
So then,
hold on, I'm answering your question. I don't think that that's enough to show that a miracle had occurred. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no big deal. Because you're not being logical. And I'm trying to show you're not being logical, but I don't think you really want to see the error that you're making.
What error is being made? Restate the argument just so we all can...
He's talking about eyewitnesses. And what he's doing is he's selecting which set of eyewitnesses will work and which will not. He says, no, they're just dismissing all the eyewitness accounts. Let me ask you, these eyewitnesses, according to this elephant drinking thing, so hundreds and hundreds of people are seeing this, as you said, all over. What do you do with that? Is something happening, or are you just saying they're all deluded?
Am I saying they're all deluded? I'm
Are
not
they
sure
all
I
deluded?
understand. I mean, what I would do, well, hold on a second. What I would do is I would say, well, I don't think that eyewitness testimony alone is sufficient to demonstrate that a supernatural event.
Let's just talk about those eyewitness accounts. What's happening?
Yeah. What's happening? They're seeing a supernatural event, and they're using that to validate their religious belief in this.
So you believe in supernatural events?
I don't know, but I was going to explain to you why.
Event. You just said they were seeing a supernatural event that you don't believe in.
I'm sorry if I did. I was pretty sure I said they believe they saw a supernatural
event. Okay, I'm asking
event.
you.
If I didn't, I'm sorry.
I'm asking you. Okay, let me finish. I'm asking you. You're telling us that you're sitting here and that you're the one who quoted all these events as a way to try and refute the idea of the resurrection or show it's not reliable, which means that you're saying these people are seeing these things. You're the one telling me all these events all over the world are happening, and yet you don't believe them. Now, why should I trust your judgment when all these people all over are saying they're seeing the same thing, different places, different times, not related to each other, and yet you just dismiss them? Okay, so I'm going to ask you, are they hallucinating? Are they all lying? Is it collusion? Because obviously you're going to judge all of it. So tell us, what is it really?
I see. You're asking me why I don't accept their claims.
No, I didn't ask that.
It was a You're trying. Well, what are you asking then? Because I thought you were trying to ask why I don't accept their.
No, you gotta give them.
I'm sorry, I don't. Okay. I'm the one who's talking too much.
No, relax. What are you? Just ask your question. Don't try to answer it for them.
I asked you what is happening then. Is it delusion? Are they colluding? Is it collusion? Are they all just lying? Something's happening. The evidence you've already cited. A lot of people all over are saying they see the same thing. Okay, what do? Do you as an atheist say they're lying? You as an atheist say they're deluded? Or you as an atheist say that it's collusion for whatever reason? What do you say it is?
I guess I would have to go with delusion.
Okay, so you have to say that all these people all over the world are now deluded, and you're the one who's not. Because you're the one who can judge all of their eyewitness accounts. They're all deluded, and you're the one who sits in judgment over them.
Isn't that
what
you're doing?
Can I explain why or no?
That's arrogant.
It is.
Can I've been trying to explain why.
I'd like to hear what you're arrogant for, Joe. Go ahead.
Sure, because I don't think that eyewitness testimony alone is sufficient to establish that a miracle occurred. I believe that they can. Okay. I'm fine with them accepting.
And why don't you think that's the case?
Why?
Yeah.
Because then I would have to think that. I would have to think that when people talk about statues of the Virgin Mary bleeding out of her eyes was true, I would have to believe people who think that, and this isn't just a supernatural, it's even just fantastical claims. I would have to believe people who were abducted by aliens. I would have to who claim to be abducted by aliens. I would also have to.
I happen to study the aliens thing and abductees. I've been studying them for years. You want to know something? Something's happening.
What do you think? Do you think they are being abducted, or you think it's something more than just being deluded?
Something is actually happening. Okay? I could teach on this for a while. I've been studying this for a long time. It's just an example. When people all over the world are describing similar events and similar things that are being taught to them by these aliens, let's just say, and they're describing similar structures and looks of what they look like, for example, you have to take that as a form of evidence. The commonality has to be explained. I'm far more objective than you are. You just dismissed so much, and you don't even have a good reason to dismiss.
Well, you haven't really let me give it a good reason. I've been cut off a couple of times.
I've been very patient. Matt, have you had an opportunity to see this link over here I posted to the Washington Post about what they discovered? This is pretty neat. You should check it out as well.
Keep fighting, Joe.
Oh, you mean in the star thing? Yeah, I read about that.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I don't think it's very convincing.
Keep going.
Yeah, I read that.
I find it interesting. I'm not really sure I'm on board as well, but I did find it neat.
Yeah, they said there's other phenomena that could account for it, but
So, Matt, I want to hear about all the alien stuff. Like, to me, that just jumped up a notch. It's like, well...
Yeah, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, if we're onto something here, like, just look at that. You know, that's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm far more objective than you guys are.
Well, I'm sorry, but that is condescending.
Apparently,
my
yeah.
dear friend.
No, it's not. It's a fact. Look, do alien
That is also
abductions
condescending.
happen?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Do
Well,
alien abductions happen?
How can we know if they're happening? So what I want to say...
How would you find out?
Yeah.
I would have to state that I am open-minded to this. I don't know all the different people out there. All I know is there's a great deal of accounts out there. I can't say that people I don't know are deluded. I'm not a psychiatrist, and I haven't met them personally.
There you go.
Well, definitely. Like, of course we have to hear what they say, because if they are speaking the truth, then, well, we were wrong, and then we need to adjust accordingly, naturally. However, so far I'm sure you have a lot more evidence to support your ideas. I'm sure about this. However, what you're expressing currently is that, well, this is happening all over the globe. Everybody's experiencing similar events about abductions and seeing similar alien types. Now, one can argue this and that about that, but my argument is this. People have been describing dragons for thousands of years, and they are all similar in structure. And do we think dragons exist?
May I say something to you, Joe? All right, let me see. Is your name Joe as well? No, you're Frankie IG. So you think that Richard Dawkins and Stephen Hawking, who have written about aliens and their belief that they could exist in the universe, that makes Stephen Hawking popular atheist and Dawkins nuts or deluded for stating such?
I have never read anything about them mentioning aliens.
Stephen
I do
Hawking
believe
states that one of the concerns that he has is not only aliens and a galactic empire of some sort being out there where we could get enslaved. That's Stephen Hawking. But he's also concerned about AI intelligence, that machines could actually take control, kind of like
those are
Skynet
two
Terminator.
very, very different
He was
entities.
asked, how do you think we got here? Because it sounds to a lot of people, like he says, intelligence can be found in DNA and scripting. He said panspermia. Do you know what that is?
Well, I think what you're mentioning is that his idea was that it is possible that the pathological genes that were brought on to bring on in his evolutionary theory, that they were possibly brought on from another universe. That is what I'm thinking you're expressing now, is it?
Yes, he was actually asked in an interview what his view was on this, and 3 times he's been interviewed on this, and he stated that he believed that it could be possible that there was some intelligence, but he states not a god, but possibly an alien civilization. So there you go. Do you think that Stephen Hawking, who is a theoretical physicist, supposed to be one of the greatest in the world, and then Richard Dawkins are nuts or deluded?
I just don't think he's right, because he has very little information to provide this as being true or false. That is my statement.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Theory, and we can look at it, but if we don't have enough evidence, how can we support anything? That is how I look at it.
Well, what is your particular view? Are you open to the probability of this at least?
The universe is extremely vast, and we don't know how big it is. And if we look at the possibility of there being alien abductions, we also have to consider the possibility that there are these stealth, for the lack of a better term, UFOs going over, abducting people without anyone noticing. Well, some people are obviously noticing, but if we would have seen a UFO, it would have been a national crisis on every level. But we haven't. So there is very little evidence to support this.
I don't know. You live on planet Earth? You hear about people all the time stating that they see things like this or they have this happen to them. How can you say that you have not heard of this?
But no, that is not what I said. I'm sorry if that came out. That is not what I meant. What I meant was that we still don't have the empirical evidence. Like, here is a picture of a UFO. Of course, we have those, but like a steady shot camera. It doesn't have to be too specific, but we don't even have really good evidence to show, oh, here is me with my mobile phone filming the UFO at this place in the world, and here is, you know, the beam or whatever that brought up the person, and he came back and he had this story, and here is the mark that the UFO left. We don't have anything we can reliably stand upon.
You don't know that?
I believe it. No, exactly what I'm saying. I don't know. That is why I'm open-minded to the idea, but I still don't see evidence to say, well, this has to be it.
Matt, if I were to type in aliens and eyewitnesses and all that right now in photography, videos, I could literally spend my entire life just looking at
that people lie?
That particular field.
Do you believe that people lie for attention?
I think some people lie, but I think some people, they believe very, very clearly in what they feel they've seen.
Humans have always tried to explain the unexplainable, so I feel like if they see something they think is a UFO, then naturally they'll bring themselves to the conclusion that it's real. You know what I mean? Even if it's
you guys, you know, let me interject really fast. You know, because of what I do as a researcher, if you guys know what I do, you know, with CARM, people started asking me years ago about this stuff, and I just happen to be someone who likes science fiction. You know, I mean, if there's a sci-fi movie, you know, 3 years from now, I'll get in line now. You know, I mean, I just love sci-fi.
So Star Wars, you're ready for?
I'm ready for Star Wars. I've seen the movie Aliens 55 times, no joke. And I actually have a letter from George Takei, Captain Sulu. You know. And so, at any rate, so this has always been kind of an interest for me. So what I did was, and this is what I do with a lot of things, I just say, well, I'm going to just listen to MP3s. You know, say I got to drive 5 hours someplace or whatever. I got to take a plane trip. I'm doing more and more traveling now. Well, okay. So I just get MP3s. I go find them. Podcasts. You know, most of this stuff, come on, give me a break. These guys are idiots. After a while, you say, wait a minute, something's going on. There are too many commonalities. There are too many things. I mean, I'll get podcasts from everywhere. And you start listening. And after a while, you start realizing there's just some unexplained stuff that's going on. You can't just dismiss. Now, this is what I've concluded. And I've discovered some other things that you guys just don't know about that clue me in on what, when, where, why, how, and a whole bit about it. And I'm not going to tell you right now, I don't think so. I actually brought it up to a top UFO researcher that I happened to meet online a year ago, and we had a private conversation. And I told him my theory, and he said, that's what they think. And I don't know if I can tell you, but at any rate, I mean, I really do my research. Something's happening. And the point of bringing it up was this. You see, when you have eyewitnesses, you have people who say, look, I saw this, I saw it, I saw it, I saw it. And all over the world, something's going on. The question is, what is going on? Are they all delusional because they saw Star Wars and they see a satellite go across? Hey, look, there, I saw the UFO. Maybe that's what it is. Right. But some of these things can't be explained that way, and some of them cannot. And they actually, believe it or not, well, let me put it this way. The person who got me interested in this study was an atheist who, let me be honest here, as I am honest. I mean forthright in that I believe he was an atheist. I don't recall him saying anything that he was a Christian, but he's an atheistic, best of my recollection, psychologist who did research with abductees. This is like 25 years ago I read this, 25, 30 years ago. He concluded that there were commonalities. He also discovered that the aliens that apparently are real teach theology, and they all taught the same theology to these people. That's what got me interested, and that's why I study. Why would that? What's that got to do with anything? And why do people in Argentina, Bolivia, why in Australia, America, England, Japan, China have the same thing that they're taught? So when you start getting,
Plantinga?
what's that?
Do you think they read Alvin Plantinga?
And while they're, you know, when you hear stuff like this, you go, something's happening. What's happening? If I'm an atheist and I'm a materialist, I might say, the aliens don't exist. Maybe I'll say, yes, they do exist. I could even say some Christians would say, obviously it can't happen. Well, I don't know. I study. I'm just saying you guys ought to adopt this same kind of open-mindedness about eyewitness accounts on things. There's a reason people say things. Is it delusional? That's a possibility. But if you're going to assert something, you better have more answers as much as possible, that's reasonable, to account for things, why these things are occurring. That's all I'm
just going to use Occam's razor on it, and the simplest
I
answer.
hold the position that it's not logical to just dismiss people, especially if you've never actually met them and you've never done any kind of reporting or research.
I have a clip.
Whatsoever. Most of the unbelievers I've actually talked to, they're open to the idea of there being other life forms out in the universe. I find this kind of an odd thing. And by the way, I do want to point out, Matt, that if I had a choice between Star Wars and Star Trek, I love them both, I'd always go for Star Trek because of the philosophy and moral position.
Blasphemy.
You know, that's another. I think that's a point that Michael Shermer, I think he mentions in one of his books that the interesting thing with the alien abductions is that over generations, whatever is like kind of the popular image or concept of aliens at that time that you're abducted, that's what they'll describe when they're describing these aliens. Like people were describing like the tall, thin aliens when, I don't know, when, what's the movie that came out? One of the movies came out. People were describing aliens that kind of looked like E.T., that kind of thing. I wonder if there were people who were later describing aliens that looked like Yoda. Did you know that a former president of a country in like Eastern Europe was abducted by aliens? I just posted a link in the.
I wonder, huh?
Like he has like his presidential aides were looking for him for a year, not a year. I'm sorry, for an hour, not a year. And I mean that's the thing. The reason why I also mentioned aliens was because there is kind of a hang up on it's like, oh, you're an atheist, you're only looking at it from an atheistic worldview, you can't accept the supernatural. The interesting thing about alien abductions is that it's not, I mean, it's technically naturalistic, but it's still, the point gets across. It's still something that I think we would need, like, I don't know, like a crash site, you know, like a
that's another topic. You know, you need to do I would, if you're interested in this, I would suggest just go start getting stuff together and start listening, and you'll find that a lot of it is, give me a break, you know, stupid. And but some of it you're going to go, wait a minute, something's going on. Just do your own homework. It took me a few years, you know, not every day, but you know. So
I just think a lot of these
there's like a historical,
like a lot of these eyewitness accounts have been explained throughout history.
Sure.
Like when people used to think that why was the water coming in and out on the shore? It had to be Neptune. Well, then we found out the moon is a pretty cool dude and helps us out with those. And
yeah.
It's just
not the same thing as abductees, all right?
No, but it's eyewitness accounts. It's an eyewitness. Okay. So I can't explain what this is, so therefore I explain it.
Okay.
In this way.
Okay. Explain then the resurrection eyewitness accounts. Explain them away.
Well.
One point at a time, and I'll address it.
One word at a time. All right. You'll break it down.
One point at a time.
I think that people. Back then, we can't even relate to how their mindsets were at the time.
So because they're older, you can't trust them?
Well, no. I mean, the mindset of the people themselves, they didn't understand why we had tides, for example.
What's that got to do with them seeing resurrection?
Would you mind if I clarified
Sure,
for
sure.
you
Yeah,
upstairs? I think I get the point you're trying to. Well, it's not. It's not even. I think he's going for at the time just our awareness of certain phenomenon wasn't as broad as it is today. But I think the point is, which would you consider more credible evidence? Like modern day secular newspapers and actual eyewitnesses, and actually being in a room with an eyewitness of the event. Right now, Cliff saw this event and he talked to other eyewitnesses. Would you consider that more credible, or would you consider ancient documents that technically weren't even source? I mean, they were actually written by anonymous, highly literate Greek authors.
And in the case of
I mean,
Christianity, wasn't it written
Hold
numerous years after
on, hold
Jesus
on.
had
Did he say highly illiterate authors?
I said highly literate. Sorry if I said illiterate, my bad.
So many problems in what you said, I can't remember them all.
I can go over them again if you want.
Well, explain your position.
I mean, I was.
Matt, so
go
I
ahead.
can
Sorry.
break
Hold
it down
on upstairs. Hold on.
Guys, one at a time. I can't understand you when you talk over each other like that. Relax.
We're fine.
Look, you know what you did is you invented a thing about would I trust modern news? No. I know for a fact they lie. Absolutely. Okay.
Well, what's to stop someone from doing the same at that time? Maybe they had a narrative they wanted to.
Let's work with it.
Maybe they saw this deity, all of these people, and they wanted it to be.
Let's work with it. Okay. In the cultural, political context of Israel, the Jews were under heavy domination by the Roman Empire. If you've ever studied the geography of the location of Israel, you'd understand why it is such an important place. The place of Israel is the only real place that you can go in mass quantities where people can travel from north to south unless they were to go across in a boat from various areas. It's an interesting study. So Rome wanted a cohort out there in distant Israel in order to keep control because it was strategically important. So the Romans were the ones who were in military control and political control over the Israelites. The Jews resented this greatly. The Jews, as a people, were, well, let's just say, almost neurotic. I'm using that for your guys' benefit, about cleanliness laws, about keeping certain things that they had to do, about resisting various forms of sins and things like that. They were extremely tight about this whole thing. And the reason the Roman Empire allowed them to retain their rituals was because they didn't want to cause an insurrection in there. Even though the Roman garrisons could destroy the Jews, they didn't want to lose that many people because the Jews were good fighters. There was a balance that was going there. Now, this is a political setting that you guys aren't even aware of, but it's an important one. The Pharisees at the time, the political, the spiritual leaders of the area, they were, for the most part, in cahoots, with the Romans who were in control. And you can see that as evidenced by the trial and various things that they did. They brought them to Pilate and Herod, because they're the ones, the Roman Empire had the right of execution. The Jews, even though according to their law had the right of execution when they were going to kill Jesus, had to go to the Roman Empire for this. Okay, that's why they did that in the trial that way. That's why they lied about it. Now, this is the kind of setting. So we've got these Jews, the disciples. They're going around with Jesus for 3 days, 3.5 years. They said they saw him do miracles. They said many things. They wrote it down. Jesus is crucified, and then Jesus supposedly rises from the dead. No one wants Jesus to rise from the dead because they don't want another insurrection there. They don't want another martyr person who's going to cause a political uproar. They want the body to be discovered. They want it to be discovered. The Jews do, because they don't want this sect called Christianity to rise. The Romans want it to be discovered too, because they don't want a martyr to be, or this idea that Jesus rose from the dead and have another insurrection out there. They didn't want that. The people were motivated to have the body of Christ found. The Jews themselves, the disciples, were hiding. They were hiding. They were afraid because the Romans were going to come and kill them. The Jews were going to come and kill them. Now, in this context, these disciples had already basically forfeited everything. So they're in a room together. And I could just see them saying, you know what? Let's say that Jesus rose from the dead. Let's hide the body. Let's steal the body, even though there's 2 Roman guards over the tomb. And in Roman system, if your prisoner escaped, the Roman guard took his place. That's what happened in Rome. These Romans are highly motivated to not let the body be destroyed, to not, be stolen. Hence the idea, the resurrection, etc. So they're very motivated. Of course, they were bribed later according to the account. So let's just say that what the disciples are going to do now. Hey, guys, I have an idea. Let's take the body from these 2 guys that are guarding it with their lives, and then let's hide the body, and let's lie about all of it and say that we're going to teach that you need to be honest, people of integrity, and sacrificial, and we'll follow this guy Jesus, who did not want a political uprising. Jesus did not advocate that, but advocated peace. And let's do that, and by doing it, we'll be excommunicated from the Jewish community and possibly arrested by the Romans. And the guys in the room are going, yeah, let's all do that. It sounds like fun. That's why they're going to do it for a lie? As far as the documents being written afterwards, hundreds of years afterwards, that doesn't carry any weight. The book of Acts does not contain the death of Peter and Paul, which is around, we'll just say, there's debate, but roughly 62 to 64 AD. Let's just say 62 AD, whatever. And it does not contain the destruction of Jerusalem, and the destruction of the temple, which Jesus prophesied, which occurred in 70 AD. Now, the book of Acts is important because many historians think it was written by Luke as a legal defense for Paul when he was sent to Rome under house arrest as a Roman citizen. He could appeal to Caesar, which he did in the book of Acts. So some think that the book of Acts was written as a legal defense document. Whether it was or was not, we don't know. But it has that kind of flavor to it. So what apparently happened is Luke went around and interviewed all kinds of people and got an account of what was happening to present, in some case, either for legal reasons or historical reasons, whatever, because it's a historical document, and it is. It contains in Acts 7 the death of Stephen. So here's the question. Why does it not contain, if it's written hundreds of years after the fact, why does it not contain the super significant historical markers of Peter and Paul's death? Why? Most logically, it's because it was written before then.
Are you having a debate with yourself?
No, I'm trying to answer you guys and anticipate objections. Furthermore, Luke wrote the book of Luke before he wrote the book of Acts, which means the book of Acts was even earlier than that. It means it's written early. Matthew was written before Luke even, and Mark before that. It's written early on, guys. And you guys want to say that these guys, the disciples, were liars? Give me another reason, and I'll answer it. Why your position doesn't work.
Well, I actually brought up several things, and I don't think saying that they were liars was one of them.
I don't even remember what it was.
So far, you haven't. Yeah.
Okay,
go ahead.
Name one.
Okay. Well, one of the things I brought up was that these are eyewitness testimonies that are actually anonymous, and they're most likely actually
not anonymous.
To. Okay. The majority of biblical research.
I just gave you internal evidence within the documents of why they're not anonymous, and that they were written early on. But of course, look, as an atheist, you cannot accept that information because it doesn't fit your worldview.
Well, dang it! I thought I explained why bringing up the aliens kind of defeats that argument.
Let's stick with the Bible documents and the resurrection.
Sure, and the thing is that you're concerned about them being very early, right? You think that's an important part of showing their veracity.
Yes, because that would mean that the disciples were around and alive at the time when they were written, and the early church would know that who it was that written them. As someone here said, they're written like 150 to 200 years, whatever it is, later. Yeah, the scholars say so. Yeah, liberal scholars who got their heads up their butts say that because they are.
Paul was written Paul was written. That was written significantly earlier. I agree with you on that too. The thing is that the Hindu milk miracles were written the day of the events, and we're not worried
that just
about.
Adds credibility to my case.
Matt,
Joe, if you don't mind, because you have been going over and over and over and over with the questions, can some other people take some turns? Perhaps the Frank
Brett.
as well as upstairs, Tommy from the Bronx, geologist, Brother John.
Sorry, everyone.
So I haven't had an opportunity to get on the mic to say hello to you, Clef. So there we go. Let's continue. One at a time, though, please.
Now in his is the awkward silence where nobody wants to take their time.
Well, if you don't have nothing to say, we could always let somebody else
Exactly.
in.
No, just please let Joe and Matt continue. They are having quite a conversation and we're all listening in. I'm finding it joyful, aren't you?
All right. Well, if anyone doesn't have anything of interest to say, then continue on. Then I'm fine with that.
Well, yeah. I think Matt actually he did respond when I brought up the Hindu milk miracles, and I don't want to continue on with my point if he actually responded. So I wouldn't mind hearing what when I was talking you said something, Matt. So if you wouldn't mind repeating that.
I don't remember what it was, but let me just generically say, you can't just outright dismiss eyewitness accounts. You need to do that in order to retain your atheistic perspective. You will outright do that. Now, one of the things I want to get to ultimately is what justifies your assumptions to begin with. You have a perspective. I could jump ahead in the hopscotch game several steps, and I could attack the validity of your atheism and demonstrate it can't be true. The idea would be to undermine your whole assumption of the negativity of God's existence, thereby coming back to this issue and saying, yes, a resurrection could happen, and the eyewitnesses are plausible.
What if those eyewitnesses change?
Well, what does that mean?
Well, with the resurrection, let's see here. It's with what are the books here?
Somebody's going to I don't like the Bible.com.
Oh yeah, I gotta look at my factual. No, but like in serious terms, like with Matthew, with Mark, and with Luke, we have different eyewitness testimonies. How do we look at something like that?
They're different people.
But they were all there. In the first testimony, there was the one. In the second, there were three, I believe. I'm sorry if I'm, being correctional about this. Then there were four, and then there were five women, I believe, at the resurrection of Jesus, or when he exited the tomb. Then there were two guards. They were outside, and then they were inside. And things like this.
Let me ask you a question. There's a car accident. You are standing on one side of the street. I'm standing on the other side of the street. And a police officer says to you, how many people got out of the black car? And you say 2. And the same officer comes over to me on the other side of the street and says, how many people got out of that black car? And I say 1. Is that a contradiction?
Yes. Of course it's a contradiction.
Why
How can it not be? Because one is saying 2, one is saying 1. This is a contradiction. You realize this, yes?
You're wrong.
Okay, please tell me how I'm wrong.
If I were to say this, if the officer said, how many people came out of the car, and you said 2, and he came over to me and he said, how many came out of the car, the black car, I said, there was only 1. That would be a contradiction, because only 1 means it's not possible to be 2.
But that's a semantics game.
Listen to me. This is me. If I see 1 get out of the car, you have to think now, An officer has to think, what angle am I at? A different angle than
So the
you.
keyword being see. I see what you're saying now. Yes, and I would agree with you.
Okay, so it's not a problem, is it? It's an issue of perspective and what we would see, what they would know. It's not a contradiction. A contradiction occurs when one statement makes another one impossible. So if I see one get out of the car, it doesn't mean two didn't get out of the car. It could have been possible that three got out of the car.
It's a matter of perspective. How many exits did Jesus' tomb have? The one, I have been told, yes. So it isn't a case of, well, I saw one get out of the car from the left side, but there might have been 5 people running out from the right side. There was the one exit.
I hear you, but what you're doing, you're talking, and I'm not trying to knock you here. You're talking generalities about things where you haven't looked to see the actual context. You said there was 5 women, and I've been studying the Bible for a long time, and I'm going to admit that I could be wrong about this, but I don't believe there's 5. I think in one case there's 1, in another case there's 2, and I've actually written about this, I believe, on my website and gone through to try and analyze it. So I mean, I just don't recall it all. I understand what you're trying to say, though. I understand what you're saying.
You do recognize then that eyewitness testimonies, by human flaw, can be faulty.
Of course they can be faulty. Of course they can.
Okay, so now that we have established this...
Can they also be reliable?
Nice. Naturally they can.
Okay, so now we've established that they can be reliable.
What we have established is uncertainty, because we both have different ideas. Well, I would assume so, but if you have another perspective on it, then please go ahead.
You have to have uncertainty because you're an atheist.
No.
Yes.
I can believe gravity is real. I can
uncertainty
believe
about what we're talking about in the resurrection.
Holding my hand is.
The resurrection is different than gravity. The resurrection is miracle, gravity is not. So, as an atheist, because you presuppose God and the supernatural don't exist, therefore the resurrection can't be real. Therefore, the eyewitness accounts must be discarded one way or another. That's your assumption.
No.
See, value is ascribed to certainty.
Matt, I'm sorry, but you are putting a lot of words into people's mouths tonight. I don't know if you normally do this, but you like to mention, like, oh, you guys don't know this. Like, you're being very condescending right now.
Well, I
that
apologize.
Is not my view at all.
I'm not trying to be condescending. I apologize.
Okay. I accept your apology. You're a very nice man, Matt. I truly do believe that.
And humble. I'm also humble.
I disagree with that from my current experience, but naturally that can change over time.
Very briefly.
Frank, do you mind if I ask you some questions?
I was joking.
Please go on.
Okay, well, before I do that, I'd like Nadia to be able to get her chance to get in there. It looked like she had something to say. Go ahead.
I'd very briefly comment that it seems that the critique is being made of fallibilism. There is, a degree of uncertainty to, in effect, a bit of everything, and that, value ascribed to certainty is, in some respects, foreign to the atheistic materialistic worldview. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if you were asking a question there. It sounded more like a statement.
Actually, that's
it was a statement. It was a comment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Frank IG, do you believe that your existence is based upon spontaneous generation?
Well, you're going to have to educate me a bit about spontaneous generation then. Like, you don't have to go too in-depth.
Okay, I'll keep it simple for you.
Sure.
Life coming from death or inanimate objects.
Brett, you know what you're doing right now.
No,
Well, I don't, so, we'll see where this leads.
Changing the topic.
No, he's asking completely new topics. We're not even talking about the same thing. I'm correct, right?
It's also along with the same subject. Do you
believe
that life came from non-life?
Well, one have to define life, because life for me is just something that I can see do its own movements, in a way. And the movements can be something on a cellular level. I don't see a rock making movements. That's life for me.
Okay. Did life come out of non-life?
No.
Okay.
If energy is life, then everything is alive. Like, that question just loops back on itself. for me at least.
All right, then how do you define life?
I previously just did that. Something that seems to be moving.
Okay, so you believe in spontaneous generation?
Crystals move. The snow moves. Clouds move.
On its own accord. Snow moves because of gravity. You would agree to this, yes, Matt?
One of the better definitions of life has to do with the issue of information that's in a structure, and the information propagates itself in various actions in that structure where reproduction occurs and transference or conversion of material of some sort, photosynthesis, eating something, converts into energy and things like that, and then replication. And that's a little bit loose because crystals could kind of fit into that, but that's generally what some of the things of life are said to be.
No, I completely agree with what you said. Yes.
Right.
But his point is correct. Life does not come from non-life. Yet we have life in the universe, but the universe is not alive unless you're a pantheist, which is self-refuting. So it's a problem, you know. The atheistic worldview has problems, lots of problems, but yet atheists refuse to acknowledge them.
Well, you know, I'm not.
No, I agree. An
typical
atheist
atheist.
worldview has problems.
I'm sorry, what?
Which one was the what?
I didn't hear. I heard two people talk at once. Couldn't
Okay.
understand.
Joe, please go first, and I'll say.
No, I might be going on a different topic. I don't think I think anyone who says they have an atheist worldview is it's for lack of a better term dumb. I think it's not a worldview.
Joe, I don't know if you realize this view of the world. Obviously, if you don't believe in God, you believe the universe got here somehow, that the origin of life came here some way. You're going to have some kind of worldview, whether you're a God believer or non-believer. And by the way, Joe, I don't know if we've talked about this, but the courts out there state that atheism is officially a religion now, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Brett, could you please show what you mean in this case? Because for me, atheism is as much a sport as not playing basketball.
Well, you can joke all you like, but the court system.
Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be condescending if that was what came out. But it is definitely what I believe. Like atheism is a religion as much as not playing basketball.
Hold on, you guys are talking over each other, one at a time.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's from what's his name in Britain. Yeah.
Let me get you the link.
No, just in my field, worldview is such a loaded phrase, and like I forget that when you step into the great debate, what we're doing now, worldview is basically talking about like what's your theological perspective, and I just...
Well, I would find that interesting, Joe, because I agree as an atheist. I have to call myself an atheist now. That is very strange for me. I've never had to do that. But I agree with what Brett said. It's like if you don't believe that the universe was created by God or by Shiva or whatever it was, you believe that the universe came from something. So usually the atheist goes to evolution theory with the Big Bang and cosmology and quantum physics and all that good stuff. But there has to be a world view there. That's what I believe, again, but you seem to have another perspective on it. I find that interesting. Would you like to go on?
Frankie IG, would you be fine with having Richard Dawkins tell you that it's a religion now right there, his website?
Okay, I'll look into it, and I'll tell you what I think of it.
I think another guy who calls it a religion is Michael Newdow. He was the guy who tried to get under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance in California schools, and part of his argument was to say that atheism can be defined as a religion. I mean, I have no problem with atheists going out of their way to talk to try and swear that.
Joe, you know what the difference between a Buddhist and an atheist is?
One starts with a B and one starts with an A.
One meditates more.
Hey, I sleep. I call that meditation.
Just goofing, Nadia. It's all good. Hey, welcome back, Nadia.
Is secular humanism the same as atheism? Because that's what this article says.
I don't know about that.
No, I would say that secular humanism has, quite a bit more in terms of, ethics and actually largely ethics. That
So,
layer at the top.
the very first line of this article.
Atheism is a relatively narrow philosophical position that pertains to whether there are things like deities, right? So.
Right on. So the very first line of this article says that they declared secular humanism a religion, paving the way for non-theistic community by Jack Jenkins. So is this? I know it's Richard Dawkins' website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it wasn't.
If you want to, just simply type into Google "atheism is a religion declared by the courts," and you're going to literally see thousands of pages open up about this.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of non-believers that are very annoyed because some of them are anti-theists and they're like, oh, no, not religion. I don't want to be a religion too. So
I just wanted to make.
I don't sound like you're talking to any of those guys in this room. Though.
But you understand that there's a lot of non-believers who got videos out there talking about how they can't stand religion, and now they're a part of one.
But
I don't think it's.
I wrote an article on that on CARM. I went to an atheist convention, and I didn't intend to observe this. I just noticed it, that the atheists were behaving the same as religious groups. They had a creed, they had a crisis, they had a dogma.
Because they're humans.
Yeah,
Humans
they're
people,
humans.
when they gather together, do things.
Yeah,
So I read this article now, and it's, I mean, it is a semantics game. Like, what Brett is saying is completely true. A state in Oregon, or a state in the I'm sorry, the court of Oregon has declared atheism to be a religion. Thank you.
I'm a little envious because I like my voice. People tell me my voice is nice, but yours is nicer.
We both have good voices.
It's wasted on an atheist. Wow.
I'm sad you feel that way. Like I still talk about God. Like, you know, like I have kids, you know, and I talk to my children, and I talk to them, you know, about God and stuff. But I don't say, you know, oh, don't believe in God, or you know, you'll go to atheist hell. You know, I don't know what the fuck I would say to them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my
atheist hell.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to tell them. But I don't tell them like go and like. I say them. I have one. Come on, bring it together, man. I don't tell him like you need to believe in God because you will be eternally punished and you are born with sin and all that. Because I just can't do that. I tell him this is what the religion is, like from every factual point. Like this might be hard to grasp from a theist, which is a term I've never really used before since before I sat here, to be honest, because it's not a big deal where I'm from. But I say like these are religions. I teach them all the religions, and you know whatever resonates the best with you, you look into that. You make your own.
That's not very. Golly, that's not very good.
You don't believe that? Do you believe I need to teach my child to be Muslim?
No.
Guys, I'll be right back in a minute. I'll be right back in a minute. I do want to say there is an atheist hell, and it's called watching the drunken peasants 24/7.
No, I was going to say it's not a very philosophically deep position to say whatever resonates with you. Well, what if that's prostitution and child abduction? I mean,
why does it have to be deep?
That's crazy.
No, it's not. No. The principle is not valid.
We're not even talking about remotely the same thing. We're not even playing the same ballpark at this point.
That he would
Hold
do.
on, you guys. Hold on. Mac, go ahead.
Oh, me?
Yeah, I'm taking over. Go ahead.
Oh, the principle that whatever resonates with you, that's dangerous. Well, what resonates with children might not be.
Why is choice dangerous?
Hold on.
No. You don't understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
See, you said whatever resonates with them. And you said, why is choice dangerous? That's not the same thing. Because what resonates with
maybe, you know, because I don't, you know, English is my native language. Maybe resonate doesn't mean what I think it means.
Oh, no, I don't consider you to have any deficiency. Seriously.
No, but like my understanding of words might be incorrectual in that point. You know what I mean?
Well,
can I perhaps
sure, Nadia.
raise a different kind of objection? I think it's not so much that you know it's so offensive or anything. It's just that it seems to be a you know mere factual error. I mean, for instance, consider someone who could claim monotheism.